Hey, thinkers, let's talk about blood.
The blood! So funny!
I received a question about why people's face act all weird and droop like this whenever they have a stroke. And this actually, strokes are basically heart attacks for your brain. And this video is going to be part of a series of the human body I'm going to do on my channel. This is the circulatory system. So I'm talking about strokes and heart attacks, where blood clots in your arteries cause blood flow to decrease or completely stop. And this is a big problem, since in your veins there are the first thing that blood goes to whenever your heart pumps blood is your lungs. And the reason for this is inside your lungs are all of those tree-like structures, and in those is oxygen. And when you eat, from your diet you consume iron, and it's not some compound, it's literally elemental iron, like something you could mine out of the ground. We eat that. So basically, if you've ever seen a rusted car, it's basically the iron going back to its previous state, or how it was, as it oxidizes. It's called oxidization. It oxidizes, which means it goes back to its elemental or previous form, where it uses oxygen as a release of energy. So our bodies figured out that iron is very well linked with oxygen. So it started absorbing this iron, and when our hearts pump blood, they also pump iron into our lungs, which then connects with the molecules of oxygen, O2, and then flow through the rest of our bloodstream, delivering oxygen, distributing it evenly throughout all of our muscles and tissues, bones, and our brain. So that's actually a very vital part, iron. The thing with strokes, again, your face goes all droopy, and you, in a certain area, this could be inside your brain or just below the brainstem, which is around there, where blood is not going in or out and is now blocking an artery. To explain why this is bad, first we need to understand heart attacks. So heart attacks are basically if any proteins or fats build up in your lungs, in your veins, just like this. You can see how the veins have some built up. If it was clear, it would be totally empty and blood would easily flow. Heart attacks can happen if that is either completely filled or partially filled, and even partially filled, it does affect how much oxygen goes in or out of your heart. So your heart attack happens when your heart is trying to pump blood, but it can't, because of the blockage. When this blockage happens, the iron that is molecularly bonded with the oxygen can't go to any muscles, and the muscle tissues and the muscles and anything else that needs oxygen will slowly be damaged because of this lack of oxygen and slowly die. And that's exactly what's happening with stroke. Strokes are basically heart attacks, but for your brain. Strokes can, again, make your face droopy. There's actually something called FAST, where it's basically these indications. You can see here 3 indications, and the 4th one is time to call 911. 3 indications of what shows signs that show that you have stroke. And the reason for this is pretty interesting. Your brain is sending constant signals through your nervous system, electronic signals. It constantly sends these signals, and that's actually the reason why your face goes really, or your hand can't move, or you can't move a certain side of your brain. You can't move a certain side of your body because a certain side of your brain you've lost connection of. Again, this picture, you can see how on the left side, it's showing how one side is red, indicating that that side has the reduced blood flow, and the other side is good. So one side of the face stays up, while the other side has lost connection basically to the brain. In its system, it's the word I use. It's neurons. It's the synapses and neurons. This is a picture of neurons. So they send signals from your brain to and from your brain. So if I feel pain, there's a signal going to my brain indicating that I feel pain or there's something wrong. Vice versa, my brain can send a signal to my body, which is exactly what's happening when you have a stroke. When you have a stroke, your body is running off of a fuel called oxygen. So your brain is constantly running off of oxygen. So when there's a blood clot, as I said, oxygen levels deplete, which actually causes major damage if you think about it. Which most people wouldn't expect. You wouldn't expect if you have a stroke, it would actually cause physical damage. But it does. Your nerves actually and tissue sometimes break down. It's pretty weird. And because of the lack of oxygen, your brain cannot process information properly. For example, when you're sleeping, you don't need to think about breathing. And that's good because of the fact that while you're sleeping, your brain is constantly sending a signal through the neural passages to your diaphragm, which right here, to your diaphragm, which indicates that your brain is healthy. You can, without thinking, you can breathe because of the fact that your brain is constantly shocking your diaphragm to squeeze your lungs from the bottom, and that makes you inhale or exhale. The problem with strokes, again, you have no oxygen, therefore your brain isn't working properly. Therefore, when it's not working properly, it loses connection. It loses its ability to process information at extremely fast speeds. You end up with a brain that is useless. Depending on the side, your brain droops, as I said before. Your face droops, or your body parts stop working, and this can lead to brain hemorrhage. This is extreme trauma. This can come with trauma, but extreme damage to your brain. Sometimes because of stroke, when oxygen levels deplete so much, your brain gets extremely damaged, and this is how people become mentally impaired a lot of the times. And there are a lot of procedures to so you can figure out if someone has a stroke, like this, the FAST thing, the FAST program or whatever, where they use this basically the word fast to describe, you know, how to get people help fast, I guess. But so whenever you have a blockage in your artery, that leads to low oxygen, which leads to impaired brain function, which leads to not breathing. So the biggest issue you have here is not, oh, I can't smile because my face is droopy. Your biggest issue is, I can't breathe because my brain's not working. And a lot of the times your brain is so impaired that you have to think about breathing, but no. When you have this, you have to, a lot of the times you have to think about breathing. You have to actually physically, with your mind, mentally send the signal. But sometimes your brain is so impaired you can't do that. You can't think, you can't move, you just can't send a signal. And now, if your blockage was a little bit, you know, your blood clot was even halfway, well, now you're not breathing at all. So there's no point in even that small amount of blood flow even happening, because of the fact that, well, yikes, you can't breathe in the first place, so there's no oxygen coming in. Doctors do a procedure where they basically cut open the artery and they remove whatever's in there by, first, I don't know if I can find a picture, and at least an animated one, but they apply some type of balloon device to inflate the artery, expand it so they have more room to get out this debris, and they usually leave it in there to just let it, like, the area that there was a big clot, they just let it be, and there's suddenly way more blood that can flow through. And sadly, a lot of people don't recover from this strategy. I was trying to say strategy and tragedy at the same time. Tragedy. They don't recover from this a lot of the times. But it's not just your brain that is affected. It's also your heart, your muscles, your brain, of course, your tissues, your sometimes your bone, because of the fact that your bones actually get blood for certain tasks. And that is why you get droopy or you can't function properly when you have a stroke. Hey guys, I really hope you enjoyed that video. Click here to go to my previous video and click here to subscribe, and don't forget to keep on thinking. I'll see you later.